The images that Werner Herzog presents in his films reveal a shared reality, but he doesn't gather evidence and argue for that reality. Often he confuses fact and fiction, even in his documentaries.
And now he looks through this drop of water and any image is inverted. But it wasn't even water, it was a drop of glycerin that we put there because glycerin has better optical qualities than water. And now I ask him a stupid New Age question.
I cannot hear what.
Mark Anthony, do you see an entire universe in a single drop of water? Can't get more stupid, but I scripted it for me. And he says,
I cannot hear what you say, or the thunder that you are.
End of scene. And you see the airship rising from there. But it's utterly concocted and scripted, and it's a very beautiful moment in the film.
Instead of appealing to facts, he's appealing to an intuitive recognition of a shared reality, a moment of illumination in which you feel that you're not alone anymore.
It is something that is deeply inside of us, dormant inside of us, and I'm the one who can awaken these images. And it's your images, actually, and it's like a brother or a sister, unknown, unbeknownst to you, who all of a sudden comes to life, and you realize you've got a brother. And this is wonderful if I can create that. And all of a sudden, in rare moments it happens when you hear great music or when you see a great movie. Very rarely it happens that you have moments of deep illumination and moments where you know that you're not alone anymore. And that's the ultimate I can reach. If there's anyone out there who after seeing, let's say, Stroszek, has a feeling, I'm not alone anymore, then I've achieved everything I wanted to achieve in my life.
Science and religion often take a literal approach to seeking what I'll call poetic or ecstatic truth. Some people make it their life's work to prove or disprove the existence of God. But there was an early Christian mystic who claimed that because God is beyond our understanding, it is more accurate to describe God by what he is not. For example, God is not being. God does not exist because God is beyond being and the source of being. God cannot be described or comprehended, and so his mysteries lie outside of sense perception or thought. They lie in the brilliant darkness of a hidden silence. This author is called Pseudo-Dionysius because he falsely identifies himself as Dionysius the Areopagite, an Athenian who was converted by Paul the Apostle in the book of Acts. However, scholars have concluded that this unknown author was actually writing in the 5th or 6th century, hundreds of years after the real Dionysius the Areopagite. Similarly, Werner Herzog has also attributed his thoughts to thinkers of the past.
I started a film about the fires of Kuwait. It's called Lessons of Darkness. And the film begins with a written caption. And it says, the collapse of the stellar universe will occur like creation in grandiose splendor. And under it, Blaise Pascal, the French philosopher. Not so, it was my invention. I invented it and I put Blaise Pascal because I wanted to have the audience lifted up to a very, very high level. And that's how you enter the film. And I never let you down. Not an inch. I do not let you down. So it's a complete invention, but it's for the sake of something very deep, something very compelling, something that illuminates you. And by the way, I do believe that Blaise Pascal couldn't have said it better anyway.
Besides intentionally confusing fact and fiction, both Werner Herzog and Pseudo-Dionysius also speak of ecstatic truth and illumination. Images of truth ignite and fuel yearning, and yearning brings ecstasy. and outside of yourself, you will be uplifted beyond the images and into the brilliant darkness of a hidden silence. And amid the deepest shadows, the mysteries will pour overwhelming light on what is most manifest. I'm not claiming that Herzog's ecstatic truth necessarily aligns with Pseudo-Dionysius, but they do have similar projects. Both are confusing fact and fiction in pursuit of a deeper truth. Both are addressing a human desire to escape isolation and unite with others. And both are describing that desire through the image of light and darkness. But just because Herzog confuses fact and fiction doesn't mean that he is anti-scientific or opposed to facts per se. In fact, he's adamantly opposed to the type of fraud or dishonesty that confuses a person's reality. For example,
the vanishing area paradox. I keep it in my agenda all the time. And it was published in the Scientific American. And it's very strange. You have a configuration of elements, of pieces. And when you rearrange the configuration of these, all of a sudden there's an empty space of something that has filled out the entire space without a millimeter in between. And I kept thinking about it because it defies all my experience with reality. So within my reality, it is unthinkable, it is impossible. So, and I kept thinking about it and I was misled. The whole thing is a hoax. It turns out it's a hoax, it's fraudulent. And I solved it myself because I thought I cannot solve it because it defies my sense of reality and the sense of reality of everyone around me. Something is wrong. What could be wrong? What could be wrong?
it's important that he says, "in the reality of everyone around me." It does seem that he's trying to reveal a shared reality, not impose his sense of reality on others. And the reality Herzog witnesses seems to resemble something like this. Everything is chaos, the world is indifferent to our existence, and we are desperately feeling around in the darkness, trying to connect with others. But deep inside of us are dreams that we share with others, and images can awaken those dreams. When a shared dream is recognized, it illuminates the darkness, and we are no longer alone. This man has been blind and deaf since birth. He has not learned to walk, and no one has attempted to communicate with him. We can only imagine how he experiences the world. But I assume that he has no concept of I or other. His world is chaos without form. This man has been deaf since birth and lost his sight at age 35. He has been neglected by his family and so has forgotten how to speak and write, and was never taught how to communicate through touch. As we see him feel the trunk and branches, we imagine the experience of conceptualizing the tree through touch. We imagine being alone in the land of silence and darkness. And then this title card appears. If a world war would break out now, I wouldn't even notice. This line was not in fact said by the man on screen. Herzog wrote it, but it helps illuminate a deeper truth, a fundamental struggle between an individual's subjective experience and an objective, factual reality.
There's another good example where I invent a situation. I did a film on faith and superstition in Russia. And there are pilgrims, I say pilgrims, quote unquote, crawling on their bellies and praying and they try to look through the ice in order to catch a vision of the sunken city of Kitesh. They also try to listen to the sound of the bells from the deep. But of course there were no pilgrims around. And I went to the next country inn, and there were two guys whom you see here in the background, and they had already drunk a little bit. And one of them is on his belly, they crawl, and I ask him, can you do this, and can you listen, and can you try to see something? And there's this other one, you see he's motionless. He had actually fallen asleep. He's not deep in meditation and prayer. And yet, this entire sequence, I showed it to audiences in Russia. Although the Russians know that this was an organized kind of scene, they love it more than any other part of the movie.
We often let factual observations kill ecstatic truths. For some, knowing that the pilgrims are not pilgrims at all, but just drunk men crawling around on ice, kills the individual subjective experience of ecstatic truth. Dante's Divine Comedy was once seen as a synthesis of scientific observation and religious thought, but Galileo shattered Dante's cosmos when he looked through a telescope. We now know with certainty that the Divine Comedy is not a factual description of the world, but when we read it today, it can still awaken images hidden deep inside of us. It can still present ecstatic truth.
Why throughout so much of history and around the world have people thought of heaven as up there?
I don't know, but it's certainly true. I mean, there are so many languages where the word for sky and the word for heaven are the same word. All I could think of is looking at the stars give you that sense of out of yourself that you need to be able to be ready to encounter a God. And frankly, I think it's because I know the science that I'm even more in awe.
According to tradition, Dionysius the Areopagite was a martyr who, after he was beheaded, picked up his head and walked with it to the nearest church before falling down dead. When scientific observation becomes disembodied from ecstatic truth, we sink back into primordial chaos. But even after our world is shattered, even after our observations and understanding are negated, even after it seems that nothing can provide meaning or unite us with others, there still lies an essential human truth that can only be found in the brilliant darkness of a hidden silence. And it's up to us to find new images to embody that hidden truth. We are desperately feeling in the dark and trying to communicate with others. And sometimes, out of the chaotic, indifferent world around us, we can recognize ourselves in someone else, and someone else in ourselves. And in those moments, we are no longer alone.
Christus Gott,